And one. Good morning, everybody. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International. This is a better way to eliminate debt. And today, folks, I've got, there we go. I need to get rid of this echo. All right. And echo, I got to get rid of this echo. You can't hear it, but I can. All right. There we go. Got it. All right. So listen, let me put my face on the screen here because I need everybody to pay attention to this today. We're going to be exposing some things about mortgages and how they actually work today. I mean, at a much deeper level than you've ever had it explained to you before. There's a reason why we hang on to these 30-year mortgages, to credit card debt for ages when we don't have to, because we're taught to do it that way. And when we are taught the truth, we tend to hang on to it. We hang on to the old way of doing things, and there is a reason why that is. So you don't want to miss this show. I have a lot to unpack today, a lot of truth to be told, a lot to be exposed, and I may not get it all in this week. I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best to get it in, but if I don't, you definitely want to come back next week for the rest of this show. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your pastors, tell your coworkers. Tell everybody that you know they need to tune into this show. They need to go to the P.I.L.L Method YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, and watch this show today. Mortgage Scam Exposed. You need to hear this. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started today. Good morning, everybody. I'm back. Listen, I'm ready to go. I'm so excited about this show. We've never done anything like this before. The truth, this mortgage scam business is the truth that has been hidden from us since 1936. And folks, they're not stealing from us. It's not, the scam isn't that we're being stolen from. There is truth out there, and we don't have to stay in debt for 30 years. Did you know that all of our debt should be paid off in an average of 7 to 9 years with our current budget? We don't need more money. We've just been fooled into thinking that we need more money, and we have been given a set of instructions that sound like a good idea. But when in fact, when we practice these things, it's not a good idea at all. It keeps us in debt forever. All right. So I'm going to read you something here that we've prepared today. Okay. Welcome to P.I.L.L Method Live. And I wanted to make sure I read it because I want you to get everything out of this today before we actually get into the examples. This show that exposes the truth, the financial truth no one else is willing to talk about because the system depends on you never finding out. Today's episode called Mortgage Scam Exposed. And what we're about to reveal may challenge everything you think you know about loans, debt, and mortgages, and how money actually works in this country and all other countries, as a matter of fact. Since 1936, when self-amortizing mortgages were introduced, we've been living in a financial structure so deceptive, so psychologically engineered, that it causes many people to resist even the truth, especially when it's mathematically undeniable. We're talking about a stronghold, not just financial, but mental, emotional, and spiritual. A stronghold is a belief system fortified by repetition, fear, and tradition. The banks don't just lend money, they shape the way we think about borrowing. And most of us have unknowingly bought into it. We accept 30-year mortgages. We believe lower interest rates mean lower interest costs, and they really don't. We make extra payments with no idea how much interest we're actually saving because we've never actually received a receipt from the bank that actually told us how much interest we're saving when we prepay. We obey a system designed to profit from our misunderstanding. This isn't just a scam, it's psychological warfare. And I mean that today. Behavioral economists call it status quo bias, system justification, and learned helplessness. We don't challenge the system because we've been conditioned to believe it's the only option. We've internalized the lie so deeply that we even argue for our limitations. But here's the truth. With AI-powered technology and strategic coaching, you could be completely debt-free in 7 to 9 years, not 30. And that I'm talking about your mortgages, student loans, credit cards, car loans, everything on an average of 7 to 9 years. Now, some people take a little bit longer. Some can get it done in a much shorter time. But on average, it's 7 to 9 years, not 30. Now, even that boggles the mind. Okay. Now, here's what you also need to understand. You don't need to refinance. You don't need to sacrifice your lifestyle. And you can do all of this with your current budget. You don't need to make more money. That is what boggles the mind. We've been told the exact opposite. Okay. You just need the right information and the courage. Here we go. You need the right information and the courage to act on it. If there's anybody else out here in the audience that wants to come to the stage, please do. That's what the P.I.L.L method delivers. It's not just a tweak, not a shortcut, but a financial revolution 100 times, at least 100 times better than anything your lender or financial educators or gurus have ever offered you. Way better than what Dave Ramsey is talking about, 100 times better than what Susie Orman is talking about, because they don't give you the mortgage mechanics. They don't dig down deep in understanding how all of it works. So if you've ever felt there was something wrong with the way loans are structured, but you couldn't put your finger on it, this is the show you've been waiting for. Because today on P.I.L.L Method Live, we're not just exposing the mortgage scam, we're breaking the stronghold. I can't wait to dive into this thing. So, Todd, what do you think about that? Todd, you still there? He probably just walked away from his phone. Listen, anybody else that wants to come up to the stage, raise your hand and come up to the stage because this is going to be interesting information. I need to know where all of you are from. Tell me where you are from, whether you're online listening, if you're in Clubhouse, tell me where you're from. Say good morning because we're going to get down, we're going to dig deep.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. So, listen, Todd, what's been happening, man?
All is well. All is well. I'm just getting used to the technology on this app here.
Okay, not a problem, brother. I've seen you out there before. Um, so it was there. I see you, Paula, saying good morning from Detroit. I see you there. All right. Um, thank you. Good morning to you. Listen, folks. I need you to meet a friend of mine, it's Todd.
Yes.
He's right here in Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh,
What now?
I'm in Nashville now.
You're in Nashville now.
Yes.
Listen, no wonder I haven't seen you around. All right. So, so what brought you into the show today?
Uh, the topic, the title.
Okay.
That's what brought me in. It was attractive, and I know what you're doing, and it's the truth.
It is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. But this truth is so far from the lie that it is hard to even accept. But today, we're going to dig down deep so that you can actually understand what's going on. Okay? So, anybody else that wants to come to the stage, please do. I'm going to be looking away from my Clubhouse screen so that I can share what we need to share today. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So here's what I need to focus on. We're going to focus on mortgage mechanics today, not necessarily the P.I.L.L method today. We just need to understand how we have been conditioned by the narrative given to us from the financial institutions and how the math behind this actually works. So I'm going to bring up on the screen, okay, I'm going to be bringing up on my screen how this works. So we're going to start with the math that they use, the banking system uses to turn these mortgages into 30-year mortgages when they should be paid off in 7 years. Okay? I'm just telling you. It's all about the math and how we have been taught to understand it. I see you out there, Hustle Hard Realtor. Okay? Good morning. Okay? This okay. This is April from Texas. I see you, April. All right. Thank you very much for being here today. Listen, start inviting your friends. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel because this is the only place where you're going to get this kind of truth today. This is the only place where you're going to get it. Okay. So I need you to take a look at this. We're going to bring up Brett Whistle. I'm going to put Brett Whistle on our screen, and I need you to see this. All right. So we're going to understand the truth from the very beginning. So I'm going to put on the average loan here is about $420,000. Okay. And I'm going to use a 6% mortgage instead of a 7% because the numbers are just a little bit easier to understand and grab a hold of. So even though it's 7, we're going to use 6. I will be able to show you a little bit later why 7% is actually, if you can afford the payment, 7% actually works better than 6% when you're trying to pay off a loan cheaper and faster. The higher interest rates actually work better. See, this is part of the cognitive dissonance that goes on because we don't understand the mechanics of how all of this works. And so today we're going to be breaking down the math. So let's talk about it today. Okay. All right. Okay. Again, good morning. I moved from Clubhouse. I see you there. I see you there. All right. Come on here. All right. So if you guys want to see what's going on, I'm going to calculate this for you. And we're going to break this down step by step as to why things are the way they are and how we have been bamboozled into thinking this is our only way out. And everything we've been taught to make this better actually makes it worse. Get rid of everything you've ever been taught. Just get rid of it. So here's what we've got to do. I've got to get rid of one of these zeros. That's the first thing we have to do. I just got so excited about putting everything in. I put too many zeros in here. Okay, so at $420,000 at 6% for 30 years, the payment is $2,518.11. That is the payment. But I need you to understand the total cost of buying this home. When you're buying a home, it's not just the interest rate. It's not just the $420,000 you negotiated to buy the home. That's not it. When you negotiate to buy this home, here's the other information they have to tell you, but they don't put it together like we put it together. Okay, so on $420,000 at 6%. Okay, at 6%. The amount of interest that they want you to pay over 30 years is $486,519.60. What? They want us to pay $486,000 interest on a $420,000 home. That means when you add it all together, all right, when you add it all together, that's $906,519. And don't forget the 60 cents, because if you don't give them even the 60 cents, they're coming to get your home. Okay. You got to pay this loan off. And if you pay it off the way that they want you to, you're going to pay nearly $1 million for a house that costs $420,000. Your house is in a $420,000 neighborhood, but they want you to pay nearly $1 million for it. I need to ask you, do you want to continue to pay money like this when you don't have to? All right. I see you out there, El Faber, watching us from YouTube. Okay. It says, thank you for all you teach, Don. May God bless you and your family. Thank you so much for that. I need that today. I need that today. Share this with your family. Get them on our YouTube channel so that they can see this. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to pay $906,000. We don't want to buy a house for ourselves and a house for the bank. We don't want to do that. We want to do something different. And first of all, I need you to see that this is not 6%. A 6% mortgage for 30 years means the total amount of interest that they want you to pay, when you look at the percentage of principal that the cost of borrowing, it's 115.838%. More interest, 115% more than you borrowed. So that's why it's $486,000 in interest on a $420,000 loan. And your total cost of that home is $906,000 if you don't do something about it. And here's the thing, you can do something about it. The current education doesn't tell you what that is. Today, we're going to get into why it's 115.838%. So you're going to have to do some math today. We're going to take our time and break this thing all the way down. So what is the math behind what they're doing? So I'm going to bring up a calculator on the screen. Okay, so Here, I'm going to show you the math, and then we're going to get into the history of what is going on here. Okay, here's the math. I'm going to get it, then we're going to get into the history. So they take your interest rate, ladies and gentlemen. That would be 0.06, or you can put it in your calculator as 6 and then hit the percent sign. Either way, okay, 0.06, and then they take your interest rate and divide it by 12. When you divide this number by 12, whatever the interest rate is, okay, your interest rate could still be, if you've got it pre-COVID, you could have like a 2.9 or a 3.1. And then you'll hear people tell you that because you have a low interest rate, you don't need to do nothing. You don't need to do anything else. And I'm here to tell you, I'm here to tell you that the lowest interest rates are the hardest to pay off faster and cheaper. I'm telling you, that is what is going on. Okay? Listen to this. L. Faber says, the history of the mystery. Listen, I'm loving these. I'm loving this. Okay. The history of the mystery. Okay. And if any of you have a question at any time, raise your hand, come to the stage, and we can help you. Because I see you, Rod. I see you, Jeffrey, and Jason, and Xavier, and Gabby. All right. And Lestar and Felicia. And we got some new people in here. Abigail, I see you. Deborah, Kendra. Okay. Maha, I see you. Okay. You want to get this information. All right. So now let's take a look at the math behind it. So we have a $420,000 mortgage. So what they do is you take that interest rate, divide it by 12, and then multiply that number, that 0.005. So when you divide 6% by 12, you get 0.005. And then they take that number and multiply it by your unpaid balance. In this case, it's 420,000. So let's multiply this by 420,000. Okay. And that equals $2,100, $2,100. Let me show you the first interest payment on this. Look here. It's $2,100. And out of that payment of, oh my gosh, your payment is 2518. Let me write this down. 2518 and 11 cents. Okay, 2518 11 cents. So out of that, $2,100 is interest. So that leaves only $418.11 that goes towards your principal pay down. Okay. Now, let me show you what's really going on here, because nobody else will tell you this. You're thinking, and we're taught to think, that when I pay my mortgage, some money goes to the principal and some money goes to interest. This goes to two different places, but it doesn't. All of your money goes one place. All of your money goes one place. All $2,518.11. All of it goes to one place. It's paid, and then there's a discount. They discount your payment because of amortization. They take the 6% divided by 12 and multiply that number by your unpaid balance. And then that is the discount that is applied to your mortgage payment. Okay. So would you like to see what percentage discount that the bankers are getting? And I'm going to give you the whole history here, because it's not even the bankers that are getting this money. Somebody else is getting your money. And we're going to expose the truth on that today. Okay. So if your payment is $2,100, so if your first interest payment is $2,100, we're going to divide that money, we're going to divide that payment by your full mortgage payment. And we're talking about just the principal and interest today. Separate out taxes and insurance, because taxes and insurance does nothing to pay down your loan. That's separate. That goes into an escrow account so that the banks can so-called do you a favor and make your taxes, pay your taxes for you and pay your insurance. Okay. And we're going to talk about that as well as part of this whole thing that actually keeps us in debt longer. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to take that $2,100 and we're going to divide it by your full mortgage payment, which is $2,518.11. When you do that, okay, it equals 0.833 or 83% of your payment is discounted when you're at this juncture. 83% of your payment is discounted so that only, okay, so if we have 83%, and then we add 17%, that's the whole 100%. So what does that mean? 83% is discounted, so only 17% of your money pays down the loan? What? In other words, 83 cents out of every payment dollar. When you give your money over, if this is your mortgage, 83 cents out of every dollar is discounted so it doesn't count for you. And only 17% of what you're paying counts for you. Wow. We've accepted that for years. And there's a reason why we accept that for years. Okay. Question. Okay. I have a question. Looking with your hand raised. I love it, El Favor. She says, we have a variable loan, which is due every 3 years. Can you switch that to a HELOC? You can, but you don't need to. You can, but you don't need to. I love a variable rate. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. All right. Because we're teaching optimized interest cancellation, which means you get your equity 5 to 7 times faster at a much lower interest cost, El Favor. Okay. So, all right. And here's what you need to know. If you are paying down your loan faster, if you're supposed to be paying it off in 7 years, I mean, just do some simple math here. If you're paying it off in 7 years instead of 30, and 3 years from now, that's almost half the mortgage paid off, wouldn't you say? Huh? Yeah. So even if your interest rate goes up, you are so far ahead on paying off this mortgage, you only owe half of it at that time in about 3 years. Okay. Even if the interest rate goes up, your payment will still be less than it is now on a variable rate loan. Oh, wow. Did you ever think about that? Okay. So I don't mind variable rate. I don't mind a lot of the stuff that they do because once you know how the mechanics of this thing work, you can make it work for you. You need it to make it work for you. So 83% is just too much. And 17% is what pays down the loan. Okay. Now, why is this important to know? Why is this important to know? All right. So I got to pull up some additional information here. And I'm going to put this in. Let me see here. We're going to talk about the history. Why is this important to know? Why is it important that when we see the mortgage being done this way? Because of this. Look at principal. Look at all the principal that's paid off in 1 year. Look at all the interest that's paid off in just 1 year. Look at from line 1 to line 12. Here are your principal payments that pays down the loan. Here are the interest payments. That is the discounted payment. Okay, that's the discounted payment. So that If we are, okay, I need to show you this. Here's the reason why. We're getting to it. 2581 is the payment. 2518 and 11 cents is the payment times 12. Okay? This is what we're now going to get into the realm of interest consumption. Okay? So, all right, let's delete that and click equals. There it is. $30,000. $30,217.32. If you have this mortgage, because of the way that it is structured, okay, because of the way that it's structured, you'll be paying out $30,217.32 in just 1 year on this mortgage. But because of the 83% discount, only $5,157.63 pays down the loan. You've just paid out $30,000, ladies and gentlemen, on this thing. Do you know people come to me after 3 years or 5 years on their current mortgage, and when they see how much interest or how much has been discounted from their payments and what they've actually gotten for it, can I show you like 3 years in on this thing? 3 years in, you only paid the loan down by $16,000. But $74,000 was discounted from your payment. That's over $90,000 right there, paid out, but only 16,000 out of 90,000 counts for you. After 5 years, that's 60 payments. Uh, 100 oh my goodness, oh my goodness, over 150,000, over $150,000 is paid out in 60 months. Okay, in this system, but only 29,000 pays down the loan out of 150,000. We lose track of what I call interest consumption. Do you know what your interest consumption is, ladies and gentlemen, every single month? Not your interest rate, but how much interest you're actually paying. 35 to 39% of your income just pays interest alone. That's what we call in my book interest consumption. And it's set up that way so people can make a lot of money, but we're not taught to look at interest consumption. We're taught to look at interest rate. That's what we're taught to look at, not interest consumption, interest rate. Okay, so let me see what else you've got here. I've got another comment or question here. It's at 4% with a high payment, so it's hard to pay down faster. It would probably be better than if the rate went higher. No, what I'm just saying is that it's at 4%. Okay, I can help you where it is. Even though a higher rate would be easier, that doesn't mean you need to refinance to a higher rate or ask for a higher rate. I can, if you have a high payment that you can afford, if you can afford it, I can help you where you are. Okay, I can help you where you are. So let's do this now. I need you to see what's crawling across the bottom of the screen. Go to ice10k.com and get a savings and earnings report. ice10k.com. Okay? Because everything that we've learned to do something better, we think we need to refinance. And that is not true. What we need to do is find out how the thing works, find out what the rules are, and then attack our loans with the rules. So go to ice10k.com. That's ICE stands for interest cancellation expert. ICE, the number 10, the letter K.com. Okay, ice10k.com. Somebody put that in the chat for me in Clubhouse. Okay, ice10k.com. Scroll down underneath ET's picture because ET actually used the P.I.L.L method to pay his mortgage off faster and cheaper. Okay. All right. Eric Thomas, Dr. Eric Thomas. And scroll down underneath this picture and click on the button that says Get a Savings and Earnings Report. You can know the month, day, and year you could be debt free on all of your debt. And it's usually within a 7 to 9 year window with your current budget. We will help you to get there. We'll help you to understand what's going on and how you can break this cycle of not knowing how it works, because not only do we have the technology that's going to tell you how much money to pay, what month to pay it in, what day of the month to pay it on, we're also going to give you the coaching to break the spiritual stronghold that the banks have been using for years, the psychological warfare that is being waged upon you right now, so that you can break free from the old teaching. And listen, old things have passed away, ladies and gentlemen. All things become new. The truth will make you free today. That's if you choose to be free. The lie can get so comfortable that some of us will choose to stay in the lie, even though we have seen the truth and we can actually believe the truth. But fear and repetition and tradition grip us so tightly, we're afraid to move to the new thing. Don't let it do that to you. I've seen it happen way too many times. Okay? So thank you very much for this. All right? So if you want to know how all of this works for you individually, go to ice10k.com, get that started, and we will work with you individually on your information so you can know what's going on. Okay? So let's get back to this thing. I need you to understand how all of this works. Interest consumption. The reason why interest consumption is the way that it is because it all started in 1936. And I'm going to get an article for you. I'm going to give you the link to this article. I've already highlighted a lot of the good parts in it, but it's a history. Okay. It's a history of mortgages in America, but everything that we know is based on this about loans. Okay. So let me get the edited version. So we're going to copy that link and I'm going to put it in. All right. So everybody can see it here. All right. I'm pasting it here. Okay. That link, all right, will get you this article. Okay. I'm not going to read the whole article today, but I'm just going to give you some of the highlights. So I put it in Clubhouse. We had a problem. Okay, we're going to paste it here, and let me see if it worked. Let me see if it works this time. All right, I think it worked this time. Okay, yes. All right, we've got it here. So that link will take you to this article. It was written at from the Wharton School of Business. Okay, and for the first time, I read this when I was doing my research on where did this mortgage thing come from. I'm going to give you a quick overview. All right. So let me get this off the screen so I can look you straight in the eye. Okay. If you want to see some of these things, make sure if you're on Clubhouse, make sure you go over to YouTube, and you can still listen to us on Clubhouse if you want. Just pull it up on your tablet or your computer and just turn the sound down. All right. So here is what's happening. Prior to 1936, you could not get a 30-year mortgage like we have today. Okay. Before 1936, most mortgages were interest-only payments, and you had to have somewhere between 50 and 80% down. And then on the balance, you would just pay interest only on these loans. And then at the end of your term, now your term could be 3 years, it could be 5 years, it could even be 10 years. But at the end of your term, you had to pay the balloon payment all at once to be done with this loan. And if you couldn't afford the balloon payment, they would just refinance the loan for you and give you a new term, but you continued to pay interest only. In other words, not a dime of your money went to principal. So if you continued to pay interest only, the loan would never go away. And this is where people found themselves. You see, you get so used to doing something. I mean, you go on living your life. You're not looking at the interest consumption. You're not looking at how it mounts up. You just get used to doing it, and you keep on doing it until it doesn't work anymore. And when it doesn't work anymore, they can come and take your property away. And this is what happened. In 1929, the stock market crashed. And after the stock market crashed, then the economy went to hell in a handbasket. And then this is where the Great Depression comes in, where property values started to plummet because at the end of their terms, people could not pay the balloon payment. And because things got so sketchy with the banks would no longer refinance these loans. And since they could not couldn't refinance, and they were at the end of their term and they couldn't make the balloon payment, they lost their property. They lost their houses, they lost their businesses, they lost their farms, they lost their church buildings. They lost everything because they couldn't make that balloon payment. So along comes FDR, and the government comes in and buys up a lot of these mortgages and then reissues them to the people as 20-year self-amortizing mortgages, so that the formula that they used back in 1936, they use the same formula today. It's the same formula. Okay. And so once they did that, ladies and gentlemen, when they reissued these mortgages, guess what didn't come with them? Instructions on how the math actually works, instructions on how the loans work. All we know is we got a payment we can afford, and we lose track of the interest payments along the way. But at the end of 20 years, the house, the farm, the business, the church is paid off after 20 years. And we don't care because in 20 years, we're done with the mortgage. The mortgage is done. But we have no idea how much interest we actually paid along the way. And there's a reason for that. And here's the reason. When the government reissued these mortgages, and I need you to read this for yourselves, okay? Read it for yourselves, okay? I gave it to you, read it, so you can start understanding what's actually happening. When the government reissued these mortgages, the government did not want to be in the mortgage industry, so they sold the mortgages to investors, so investors could do two things. They could make a lot of money, and they were focused on getting every single interest payment for 20 years, 240 interest payments. They wanted to get every single one. They love this idea. So if you had a mortgage, if you were the investor, you love this system whereby when people are paying you money, you get to discount it by 70 to 80% so that they have to keep paying you for 20 years to pay off the loan when you really don't have to. This is why how loans actually work has not been taught at any level of financial education since 1936, 89 years. None of this is being taught in any of our schools worldwide. None of it until today. We're going to break it all the way down for you, tell you why it's happening this way. Okay? So here's the other thing. Once this is done, if you're in the mortgage industry and you bought a home recently, If you have a mortgage out there, I need to know how many people have mortgages out there. If you have a mortgage out there, put a number 7 in the chat. Put a number 7 in the chat if you have a mortgage. Put a number 7 in the chat if you have a mortgage. Put it in, if you're watching me online, put it in the comment section. Put a number 7 if you have a mortgage. Okay, put a number 7 in if you have a mortgage. And I want you to tell me, what happened when you closed on your mortgage. What happened to your mortgage within 1 to 2 weeks after closing? What happened to that mortgage? 1 to 2 weeks after you closed on that mortgage. Can anybody tell me? Okay, what happened? You got, okay? Gabby says it was sold. She says, LOL, because that's the system now. Banks don't make a dime off of mortgage interest, ladies and gentlemen. They don't make a dime off of mortgage interest. They make their money when they sell it to an investor, so the investor can get mortgage interest for 30 years, so they can keep discounting your payment. They discount your payment so deeply. Do you realize that it takes about 20 years in this current system just to pay off half the loan? What? So let me show you something here. 420,000. Okay, let me get rid of this advertising off this, and I'm going to put it back on the screen. I'm going to put this back on the screen to prove what I'm telling you is correct. Okay, so I'm going to put this back on the screen. Okay, look here. Here's $420,000 at 6%. So that means what, 210,000? So we want to go down on our amortization schedule to 210,000. So look at the principal balance here. Let's scroll down to 210,000. That's when we pay off. That's where half the loan is paid off. 210. I'm scrolling down. Wow, my finger's getting tired. Scrolling down, 210,000. And this is why we need to understand what's really going on here, folks. There it is. 200, and here it is. Right here, 252 payments. All right. So if we have 252 payments, 252, divide that by 12. Okay. Divided by 12. There it is. That's 21 years. That's 21 years. All right. Listen, I got somebody here that's calling me that needs to be on the show. Okay. They need to be on the show. All right. Okay. Sean, Sean 10K Lashley, you know, I'm on my show right now and everybody can come on. You need to get on here right now. All right. All right. So come calling me. He knows I'm doing a show. 21 years, ladies and gentlemen. 21 years it takes to pay off half the loan, which means if it's a 30-year loan, you pay off the other half in the last 9 years. So the interest payments get so much smaller in the last 10 years. That's why you can pay off half in the last 10. Do you see? I need you to see this on this loan. They want you to take 252 payments. Okay. By the time you paid off half the loan, you paid off 210,000, but look how much interest you've paid to get it there. $424,000 that you've lost track of. This is why investors love these loans. They love them. They love them. And they don't want you to know how you can get out, that you can pay off this mortgage in 7 to 9 years. Okay. They don't want you to know that you can pay off the mortgage in 7 to 9 years, because if you could do that, how can they get you to pay them for 21 years just to pay off half the loan so that they can charge you $424,000 in interest just to pay off 210,000 of what you owe? Wow. Wow. Okay. So Sean, let me give you, I hope you're at a computer, because if you're not, that's okay. But I'm going to give you the link here. I'm going to give you the link. All right. I'm going to put it in the chat. Okay. We'll put it in the, and if you're on a computer, just take that and plug that into what is it? Chrome, Google Chrome, and you can come in here into this show today because I could use a little bit of help. So here's what here's what is okay. Oh, I see. Okay, that's all right, brother. Keep walking. Get your exercise in. Now, this is why you're not being told. It's called the one thing that banks that investors are afraid of is called prepayment. So when you get the P.I.L.L method, the first letter is prepayment of principal. Then it's isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. That's what P.I.L.L stands for. But prepayment of principal is pretty important. It is so important that people who buy your mortgages never want you to understand how powerful prepayment is. They can't, because if the banking system even taught how mortgage actually works to their employees, this is why your real estate agent doesn't understand how a mortgage works. Your mortgage broker does your real estate broker doesn't understand how a mortgage works. The person who sold you your mortgage, your MLO, your mortgage loan originator, okay? They don't know how a mortgage works to even get their license. They're not taught. If they were taught how a mortgage actually works, they would not be selling you a mortgage the way that they're selling it to you today. And because you don't know, then you'll continue to do this, or you'll do something else that kind of saves you some interest, but they still get a good chunk out of you. This whole mortgage system, this whole economic system that we are in right now is a beast. And we are feeding the beast with our interest payments, because 35 to 39% of your income pays interest alone on your debts. And the average family, even though they're doing well, has at least 13 different debts. The average family has 13 different debts. And it's not hard to get there. Okay. Let's just say that you have oh, look at here. Look who I have here. Look
Would
who I have
somebody
here.
look at this? Would somebody look at this?
Come on. Look at this.
What's
Look at
up,
this.
Don? How you doing, my brother?
What's going on, Sean Lashley? All right, listen,
I
man.
am good.
The only
You know,
reason come on.
tell me.
Talk to me this morning.
No, so I was taking my morning walk, Don, and as you know, I reserve my energy and the right to stay amazing up until 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And after 12 o'clock is when I can take on the road trip of life and everything that comes with it.
Yes.
So very few people can get a call from me before 12 o'clock, and you happen to be one of them, Don. So the fact that you're having your show, you invite me to come on, I'm always happy and grateful to be a part of it. And to see after many years you're bringing the exact information to free individuals is beautiful. To see that you're using AI technology and the upgraded technology available to make it work better and faster is beautiful. And I just want to cheer you on what you're doing, my brother.
I appreciate that. I've got a question here, Sean. I need to take it care of from Atina Barnes. Is the method applicable to student loans? You better believe it.
1,000%.
You better believe it. 1,000%. Any loan that charges interest, you can cut 50 to 75% of that interest out that you never need to pay. So more of your current budget pays down the loan. So we're going to show you how you can manage all of your debt so that you can make it impossible for the investors to discount every one of your payments. Oh my gosh. We're going to make it impossible for them to charge you all of that interest. You are able to give the money back to the investor in a way which makes it impossible for them to discount your payment. Oh my gosh. This is why investors don't want you to know. The whole banking system is based on this, ladies and gentlemen. The whole banking system is based on they give you a mortgage, and then your credit union or your bank or your mortgage company sells that mortgage to an investor. And if everybody knew how they could pay off their mortgages in 7 to 9 years, you answered the question for me. Would your loan be as attractive to investors if you knew how powerful prepayment actually would be? And you can cut out the interest cost of your loans by 75%.
Don, you're trying
Yes,
to
sir.
get these investor sharks to come after you.
No,
You're trying to get these predators that spring on people who don't know any better to come after you. Don, are you sure you want to put yourself in that position, Don? Are you sure you want to free people, Don? Are you sure?
I'm sure I want to free people, Sean. But here's the thing. The psychological hold that this whole system has on us before and it's sad to say, but before the majority of the people get this, I'll probably be dead and gone. This is why I'm putting this information out here on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, so it can live beyond me. Somebody's going to pick up this work, Sean, and take it to a whole new level. People need to know, but you can start today. Some of you are going to have enough courage to break free, okay? And give this a try and say, listen, I'm tired of the way things have been going. I'm tired, and I want to do things differently. And so just to show you what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, I have something to play for you. I'm going to come back. I need to get a drink of water. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back in about 51 seconds. I want you to see and hear someone who has taken advantage of this information.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
All right, folks, there we go. Now you have it. Okay. So E.T., the hip hop preacher, Dr. Eric Thomas, paid off his mortgage early. And you see it crawling across the bottom of the screen. Go to ice10k.com, ice10k.com, and get your savings and earnings report so you can know the month, day, and year you could be debt free and how much interest you're going to keep from losing to investors. Okay. Stop losing all of your wealth. You are giving over your wealth, your children's inheritance, to investors right now. And also, I need you to do that. And also listen to this. The video card that you're getting, the ICE 10K card that you're getting, okay, that you're looking at, when you click on that, the genius behind the 10K card is on your screen right now. Sean Lashley developed this thing, and it's the most powerful digital business card. And now I don't have just the business card. I have what's called the video card. Lord have mercy. And do you know how many people this has helped? Sean, now that you're here, tell them a little bit about this video card that I'm using to put this information out here.
You know, Don, one of the things that I'm so grateful for, when we first met, you were someone with a solution that can actually help a lot of people. And it was kind of frustrating you that because you weren't able to get your point out exactly the way you intended to. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years, Don, is that this product have easily helped you to spread that message out there. This product has made it so easily accessible that others can come into contact with the information that you're sharing. They can get to see and hear you from different angles. They can find ways to connect with you. And that's what this does. You know, a funny joke to the audience. When I first met Don and we did the first sample of the product and we sent it to him, Don's first response to me was, where do I pay? How do I get this? I said, Don, it's already yours. Here's the payment link. So, you know, your first reaction to us, Don, was absolutely amazing. And that's why many years later, when we look back and we see what you have done, I'm just so eternally grateful, number one. And number two, after this show, we're going to hop on a call, because if you thought what you're doing here at school, boy, wait until I give you the updates that we have. We
Oh
have been
boy.
in the lab. We have been in the lab, Don. And you're one of the few to get the phone calls to hear the updates that you have so beautifully and proudly and boldly invested in. So you're getting your investors call to give you an update as to what we have coming for you.
Well, I tell you what, Sean, right now, there is even on my video card, there's a link on that card, how to get to you. So folks, you need to click on that. If you like what you see there and you want one for yourself, contact Sean. Sean, somebody's asking me right now. Somebody's asking me, PR is asking me, oh, so we're talking credit cards also? You better believe that we're talking credit cards also.
Yep.
So let me bring this over on this screen so you all can see this, okay? I need to bring this so we can see this, Sean. So let me pull this up so people can see, okay? We're going to add this back to the stage. And here is just one of our clients. Here's one of our clients. I want to show you how powerful interest cancellation can be when you're using AI and our coaching system to get rid of this debt. All right. It is not about paying off the debt fast. It's about paying the debt off efficiently. You want to make an efficient use of how to use credit, which I love, by the way, and how you can use your money to maximize interest savings. The math is incredible when you use it for yourself. Here is a person who has two mortgages, $634,000 when you add their mortgages together. They have three other loans of $197,000. I need you to see this now, PR. They have credit cards, 12 credit cards totaling $201,000. What? Credit card debt totaling $201,000. And I'm trying to tell you folks, listen to me. I'm looking straight at you. Credit card debt is one of the easiest debts to get rid of when you understand how the amortization schedule actually works. This is why banks and investors don't want you to know. And what we've been taught doesn't work. It's very inefficient. The debt snowball is inefficient. You can get out of debt using the debt snowball. You can get out of debt using the avalanche method, but they're so inefficient, you're going to pay way more interest than you need to than if you just learn interest cancellation techniques. Use our AI system that does all of the math, that tells you exactly what to do and when to do it. Okay? How much money to move, what month to move it in, what day of the month to move it on, which loan to attack, with precise amounts of money so that you don't overpay. Yes, it is possible to pay too much at the wrong time, and it can hurt you. No one tells you that but us. So yes, PR, we're talking about credit cards. Let me show you the end result of this. The bank wants $692,000 in interest on this. $692,286 in interest. We're going to show them how to pay only $179,000. Let's call it $180,000. That's a 74% reduction in interest. That's over $500,000. What? $500,000 they never have to pay the investor, so that they don't have to take 36 years to get out of debt, folks. They can be done in 9 with their current budget, and they don't have to sacrifice lifestyle. They can live quite well and do all of this and save $500,000 that they don't have to give the bank. And that money that they're not giving to the bank, over the next few years, if they invest that money that they didn't give to the bank, they can turn it into another $4 million. Oh my goodness. This is why investors don't want you to know this. This is why the banking system doesn't want you to know. So the history behind it, everything that we have ever been taught keeps us in debt longer than we should be in debt, even though you're trying to get out. But even the things that we've been told, I don't care what system you're using, if it's not the P.I.L.L method, if it's not interest cancellation, if it's not AI powered cloud-based computing system and our coaching system that is helping you to get out of debt, guess what? If it's not that, no matter what you're doing, you're going to pay $50,000 to $75,000 more in interest than you need to, on average, to use anybody else's system. That's how powerful this is, because they're not using AI. They're not focused on how to save interest. They're looking at how fast they can pay off the debt. And when you look at how fast you can pay off the debt, you're not paying attention to how to save the maximum amount of interest per dollar. And when you're not saving the maximum amount of interest per dollar, then the investors make more money. Folks, that's what it comes down to here. All right. And that is a little bit of the history. But I needed you to see this PR. Okay. Let's put that on the screen. I needed you to see that, yes, we're talking about credit cards. Can you imagine $201,000 just in credit card debt? Do you know some mortgages aren't that high? That this rivals a mortgage. So we have two mortgages of $634,000, of three loans, credit card debt for a total of $1,033,000, which can be paid off in 9 years if you know what to do. And folks, we guarantee these numbers. What? These numbers are guaranteed. When you become a P.I.L.L method client, we give you a guarantee in writing that we have to do this. So we only bring on people we know we can help, because we have to guarantee their success. You can't beat this with a stick. All right. So let's get back to where we are. Sean, you're still on your walk. Do you have anything else to tell the folks? Because I know I have to see I want to see some of the improvements and some of the things that you're doing. But is there anything else you want to speak to the folks before I continue on?
Yeah, it's very simple, guys. The one metaphor I'm going to leave everyone on the call with is this: know what goals you have in front of you. Know what the plan. Know what it is you really, really want. And then what it is you decide that you really want, treat it like sunset and sunrise. Treat it like sunset and sunrise. When you walk to the east, you're destined to see the sunset. When you walk to the west, you're destined to see the sun. Walk to the east, you'll see the sunrise. Walk to the west, you'll see the sunset. So if getting out of debt, paying off your mortgage is the sunrise for you, I would definitely say walk in the direction of the P.I.L.L method. If you're going to say, look, I want to stay in debt, and you want to see the sunrise at the same time, but you don't want to take action, keep walking to the west. You're sure to see the sunset. Guys, if you want to win, simply take the things that make sense, simply apply them to your situation, allow time to do what it does, and then enjoy the benefits of the results that will come after. Don is not living the life today just because he knows how to speak on stage. He's not living the life today because he's selling a couple books. He's living the life today because he's genuinely helping a lot of people. And if you want to get to where you want to be in life, find a way to help others, and you'll find a way to get to what you're looking for. Zig Ziglar said it best: find a way to help other people, and you'll get exactly what you want. So if anyone on this call is looking to find a much faster way out of getting out of debt, avoiding paying unnecessary interest rates, definitely tap into the P.I.L.L method, guys. We use it. It's worked for us. We've seen countless of members that it worked for. I want you to be the next testimonial. With that said, Captain, have a blessed show. Shout out to everyone on the call, and give me a call the moment you get off.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Sean, for being here. Thank you for your support.
You're welcome.
All right. Listen, folks, here's what we've got. So we've gone over amortization math. Okay. We've gone over the history. We've gone over interest consumption. Now it's time to focus on what the industry has given us to cancel interest. You see, people have been paying off debt for a long time, even before the P.I.L.L method. Okay. But they've been doing it in such a way that it's inefficient. And inefficiency makes the banks more money. We're going to go over several things that we're being taught to manage our debt. Okay. And then we're going to also go over how some of those things actually work or how they don't work. Okay. So the first thing we're taught is how to round up payments. So you have a mortgage payment. Okay. You have a credit card payment. You have a car payment. And so some of you have been taught to round that up. So if your payment is $2,100, well, you can round it up to $2,150 or maybe $2,200 for your mortgage. You can do the same thing with your credit cards, with your car loans, your student loans. You can round up the payment. Okay. But when you round up the payments, here's what's happening. Some of you try to put a lot of money, extra money on the loans, and you spread yourselves too thin because you want to pay more than the minimum on everything. That is a surefire way of keeping yourselves cash poor, and you feel as if you're going from paycheck to paycheck. You're not living the life that you want because of the debt that you have, because of how you've been taught how to handle the debt. You're spreading yourselves way too thin. Okay. Because PR says, I have much less and can't get out. PR, there's some of the reasons why you can't get out is because of how we've been taught. But once you know the secrets, once you know what you should have been taught, I'm talking about way back in 8th grade, you could understand this. Okay. So this is, I owe much less and I can't get out. That's what she said. Or, all right, PR, or he says, I don't know if it's male or female, but anyway, I need you to see some of the things that we've been taught and why they don't work. Then there's biweekly payments. Oh my gosh. Biweekly payments. How many have heard of biweekly payments? All right. These are called heuristics. Okay. Heuristics. 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 Let me pull that up on the screen. Okay. So we're going to pull this up on the screen, this word. Okay. And we're going to read it. H-E. Okay. Heuristics. Heuristics. Okay. Heuristics are mental shortcuts or rules of thumb. Okay. There's not much math in it. Okay. There's not much efficiency in it. It's just something to do that gets you some results. Okay. Heuristics are mental shortcuts or rules of thumb that people use to simplify decisions and problem solving, especially when faced with uncertainty or limited information. They allow for quick judgments and choices. And you know what happens when we make quick judgments and choices. We often don't get the best information or the best ways of handling something when we handle it like that with something that's quick and easy. Listen, folks, getting out of debt is incredibly hard. Incredibly hard, way harder than we have ever been taught. And this is why it is so lucrative. We are in a system where we are feeding the beast, but it takes our ignorance of the system to keep feeding the beast, even though we're doing the best we know how to do. We still stay in debt way too long. If you're doing a biweekly payment, do you realize that the best you can do is between paying off this debt faster, between 4.9 and 7 years faster? That's all. It can only take off 4.9 years and the most 7 years. That still changes a 30-year loan into a 23-year loan. 30-year loan into a 23-year loan. Now, if that's all you know, 23 years is still better than 30. Okay? By using a biweekly payment system. But the P.I.L.L method can help you to get out of debt in about 7 years, saving 23 years, which is better, using the same budget. Oh, that's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to go to ice10k.com and get your savings and earnings report today. Let me talk to you about a biweekly payment and why it is so inefficient. Okay, we're going to I have to bring my information back. Oh, you know what? I never put that on the screen, did I? Heuristics. I meant to put that on the screen so you guys could see it. Okay, here it is. Heuristics are mental shortcuts or rules of thumb that people use to simplify decisions and problem solving, especially when faced with uncertainty or limited information. Heuristics is another term for rule of thumb, something that's easy to use. And we've been given rules of thumb to try to manage a very complicated system whereby we pay a lot of interest. But what we don't want to do, folks, here's what we want to do. We want to pay the least amount of interest that's mathematically possible. And heuristics can't get you there. It's easy to do. Okay? Easy to do. But you still pay way more money than you need to pay. And when you pay more money in interest, you just stay in debt longer. Cut out 75% of that interest so more of that money can go to pay down the principal, you're out of debt faster. That's what's going on here. So let's talk about biweekly payments here for a second, okay? Let me put this on the screen. Biweekly payment means this. You're going to cut your payment in half, and you're going to pay half on the first of the month and the other half around the 15th of the month, okay? Let me tell you what doesn't happen. When you pay half the mortgage up front on the first, they just hold that money. It doesn't help you at all. You're not saving any interest. You're not saving any time when you pay on the first. They just hold it until the 15th. And then they apply it to your mortgage the same old way as if you just paid all of it on the first. Okay? That's what's happening. Well, then, Don, how does a biweekly payment save us 7 years then? It works this way. Because every 6 months, there's an extra week. All right. You know, if you're paid biweekly, you're looking at that. You like that because every 6 months you get a third paycheck in the same month and you love it. Don't you? Okay. I get that third paycheck in the month and you love that. So every 6 months, you have to make a payment on the first, another payment on the 15th, and another payment around the 30th of the month. That's 3 of those half payments. So that third payment is the one that's applied to principal. And then 6 months later, you'll do it again. All right. And that's what adds up to 13 payments a year. That's how you get to 13 payments a year very easily by doing a biweekly payment. By doing those 13 payments a year, you're going to cut off about the most you can cut off is 7 years. And let me show you something about, hey, PR. PR says, I'm a female. Thank you, PR, for letting me know. All right. So let me show you something here. The structure of this thing. Learning the structure is very important. Every month, the interest payments go down, not by a much, but they go down. You start out at $2,100, okay? And on the next one is $2,097, then $2,095, $2,093. Every month, the interest goes down, okay? So if you're going to save interest, you want to save some of the higher interest payments, okay? But if you wait every 6 months to attack the loan, you're going to pay 6 months of high interest payments that you probably could have gotten rid of some of them by attacking the loan earlier. Okay? So if you were going to attack this loan, let me show you something here. If you're going to attack this loan where your interest payments are higher in the first year, but you waited till the third year to start attacking the loan. Look at this. Now you're at 2046. You can't possibly save as much interest in the third year as you can the first year because the interest payments are smaller. And the longer you stay in the debt, the smaller the interest payments become. Now, what happens is every single month, a little more money goes to principal and a little less money goes to interest every single month. But the payments, this is what's called the rate of change. The rate of change is so slow, their formula causes the rate of change. Now, this is a calculus term. The rate of change is so slow that we still pay way more interest than we need to in the first 21 years of this loan. It takes 21 years to pay off half. And this is why, because the rate of change is so slow. The math that they use, the formula that they use causes this. But there's a weakness in the formula, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to get to. There's a weakness in this formula that if you knew what the weakness was, you don't have to do all of this. So this is why biweekly payments, when a person becomes a P.I.L.L method client, biweekly payments are out the door. We don't need them anymore. They're going to go back to paying once a month. Okay. They're going to back to payment once a month, but they're still going to be able to get out of debt in 7 to 9 years on average. Okay. So that's why biweekly payments don't work. Now, here's the other thing. Some companies, when you get in a biweekly program, they won't let you into the biweekly program unless they're drafting your bank account. They have to draft your bank account for each payment. Those are the rules. You put the money in the bank and they draft it out. They pull it out themselves. Okay. So in other words, there's 10 months out of the year where they're drafting your bank account and they're probably charging you for each draft. They will charge you for each draft. 10 months out of the year, the program does nothing for you. Only 2 months out of the year where it actually helps you. So 10 months out of the year, they're drafting you 2 times a month. They're charging you 2 times a month, and it does nothing to help you. Oh my gosh, they're charging you for something that doesn't help. Lord have mercy. That's why we're here, folks, to tell you the truth of what's really going on. So that's why we don't do biweekly payments. Okay, now how about the idea of refinancing? Oh my gosh, you've heard that if I can refinance, I can pay off my loan faster and cheaper. No, you cannot. Let me show you something about refinancing that most people don't know. And so listen, we've got several things to go over today. All the heuristics that we've been taught. Okay. When you lower the interest rate, you actually make it harder to pay off the loan, number one. Plus, you get yourself caught up in a situation where you're going to pay somewhere between 100 and 500% interest on the refinance. What? Yes. And these are people with perfect credit. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We generally refinance every 5 years. Okay. To maybe get a lower payment, maybe the interest rates drop and it's time to refinance. Even your own bank will call you and say, listen, you need to refinance. Your own bank that has you at a higher interest rate will call you and say, you need to refinance. So let me ask you, if your own bank calls you and says, refinance, and it's time to save money, then who has to be losing money? If you're saving money, who has to be losing it? I'm just asking the question. Who has to be losing it? Your bank certainly isn't losing it. There's something going on. Let me give you a couple of things that are going on with this if I refinance this loan. So let's say I'm 5 years in. I don't know anything about the P.I.L.L method. I'm 5 years in on this loan. Okay, that's 60 payments. I paid the loan down by $29,000. I've already given the bank $121,915.05. I think everybody should see how much interest they've paid before they refinance. I think everybody should see that. How much interest have I paid before we refinance? Okay. So now one of the things that make the refinance payment work is not the lower interest rate. It's not lowering the interest rate that changes the payment that much. Okay. What really changes the payment is they're actually giving you a new 30-year mortgage. You've been in this loan for 5 years and they're going to give you a new 30-year mortgage. That's what makes your payment that much smaller. They're taking what you owe and they're dividing it by a new 360 months. So if you've been in this loan for 5 years and you refinance, is this now a 35-year mortgage? Yes, it is. So watch this. So let's say we're paid down to $390,000 here. $390,000. So this is where we are. We paid the loan down to here, and now it's time to refinance so we can feel better about it. So I'm going to pull up a new tab here. We're going to put in our new mortgage, 300, paste that in, 390,000. You got to take this comma out because Brett Whistle doesn't like that. Now I use Brett Whistle. This is online. You can do this yourself. You can Google Brett Whistle, BRETWHISSEL. And this is what I use as a teaching tool. This is not my program. This is what I use to teach. $390,828.45. And let's just say we can go from 6% down to 4.5. Oh my gosh, look at that. 4.5. Okay, 4.5. Do you see all the experts are saying, get your mortgage now, and then later you can refinance. People, before you refinance that loan, you better call us. Get a hold of us. Go to ice10k.com and call us. Don't refinance until you do. I'm going to give you our number, okay? So you can call us straight. It's 256, okay? 256-886-1867. I'm putting our number in here. Let's see there. Okay. 256-886-1867. That is our business number. We're putting it online, and I'm also going to put it here in Clubhouse. Okay. There we go. Paste. All right. There it is. That's our phone number. Don't refinance until you talk to us. All right. So Gabby, all right. Gabby raises, you're telling me, okay, how much is the program to pay off the mortgage early? That is a good question. All right. Now, we save people at least 10 times their investment. At least. We don't bring you on the list. So whatever your investment is, know that you're going to save at least 10 times more than that. And our program, depending on where you are on the spectrum, because it's a wide spectrum, all right, somewhere between 5,000 and 20,000 is the spectrum. Now, if you're paying 20,000, you probably have several $1 million in debt. Okay, so somewhere between 5 and 20. But know this: you are going to get a lot of good information when you talk to us, and whatever you invest in this lifetime program, you're going to get at least 10 times back in savings. Remember, we showed you somebody who's getting $500,000 in interest savings. They're getting way more than 10 times what they invested. They're getting like 500 times back more. Okay. So here's what you need to do. Get your savings and earnings report. And when that is completed, then we go over what the cost is for you. And when you see the interest savings, you're going to say, oh my gosh, that was money we were going to pay the bank anyway. And now we don't have to. So who actually pays your fee? Is it you? Or is it the bank who's no longer getting that money? This is the best thing since sliced bread. Okay. The money that you were supposed to give to the bank, only a small fraction pays your fee for the program, and the rest of the money is yours. And it's a lifetime program, so you can use it for mortgage after mortgage after mortgage with no more fees. Oh, you got so that answer that question, Deborah. Okay. And there we go. I'm all caught up on questions. All right. So let me show you this. So we have $390,000. And do you know there's closing costs on? Did you know there's closing costs on this? I've seen it as high as $20,000 or $17,000. Let's cut it all the way down. That I'm going to get a lower payment. Okay, I'm going to get a lower payment, and it's only going to cost me $10,000 in closing costs. And they'll say, listen, just roll it. We'll just roll it into the loan. It's only going to cost you $4, $5, $6 more, or it's not much more. And it's true. So they roll the $10,000 into the loan. So it's not $390,000 by the time you close. It's $400,000. So let's change this from 390, 828 to 400,000 because we have to add $10,000 to it. At 4.5, here's our old payment, 25, 18, 11. Okay. And here's our new payment. Okay. Ooh. Oh, listen, almost $500 a month cheaper. That's what makes us feel good. Almost $500 a month cheaper. And we have a brand new 30-year loan that we're not even thinking about. And we think somehow we're going to be out of debt cheaper and faster. But guess what we're going to do 5 years from now? We're going to refinance again. You know, Americans don't have 30-year mortgages. They have a string of 5 to 7 year mortgages until they die. That's the truth of the matter. Okay. Okay, Tina Barnes. Okay. One more. Is it beneficial to consolidate my student loans and then apply the P.I.L.L method, or leave them as individual loans? Leave them as individual loans. Leave them as individual loans. When you call us, I will be able to tell you why. Okay. And there's a reason for that. How you attack the loans, you want to attack them individually. And if you attack them individually and do it right, you can save way more money in interest than if you consolidate them. It's all about interest savings, ladies and gentlemen. And everything that you've ever been taught, we've been taught to consolidate, and that saves us money. It may save you money per month, but it doesn't necessarily save you interest cost overall. You see, banking and investors are interested in long-term interest payments. You're looking at, in the short term, can I lower my payment? But you're not looking at how much interest that's costing you long-term. If you want to get out of debt fast, you want to get out of debt cheap. So keeping them separate, you can actually save more interest and pay the loan off much faster, keeping them separate. Contact us. I'll show you how. Now, look at this, folks. We have, and I'm put that question on the screen so everybody can see it. Okay. So now we have a payment of we have a new loan of 400,000. Okay. We've got it's at 4.5% and a payment that's almost $500 a month cheaper. And this is what we're told. Find out what you paid, the 10,000, find out how much your savings are, and divide the savings into what you paid. And then that tells you how you recoup the cost of refinancing the loan. That's exactly the wrong way to do it. Let me show you why. Okay. Now I told you this is going to take a lot of time. I may have to come back next week to finish this up. Okay. So if we take, it costs us $10,000 to refinance this loan. We're saving about $500. I'm just rounding it up. So we're going to divide it by $500. Okay. That means we have to stay in the loan 20 months to recoup our $10,000. Okay. That's not the way to figure this out. Let me show you why that doesn't work. That is common. And I need you to put it in the chat. put a Y or N. Yes, put Y for yes, N for no. Is this how refinancing is explained to you and how to recover your costs? Take what you paid for the refinance, your closing costs, and divide it by your savings, and it tells you how long you have to stay in the loan to recoup your $10,000. Is put a Y or an N in the chat if this is how it's been explained to you. Okay, let me show you how it should have been explained to you. Let me scroll down. Okay, let me get rid of this advertising. Let's get this out of here. Let me scroll down. So now, here's what's happening. I need you to take a look at cumulative principal and cumulative interest. Are you looking at it? Are you seeing it? We got principal up here, interest, cumulative principal, cumulative interest, and principal balance. All right. Now, once you start paying down this loan, because you added $10,000 to it, that means we have to pay the first $10,000 back, don't we? We have to pay off the first $10,000 because that is the closing cost that we've added to it. So let me show you something, okay? In the first year, this is how much money we've paid off in the first year. How much of that $10,000 have we paid off, okay? In the first year, only $6,400. Okay, we're paying off that $10,000. We paid off $6,466 of that money. How much interest did they charge us on $6,400 that we rolled into the loan? They already charged us $17,905 on just $6,000 of the $10,000 we've rolled in. By the time we finally paid off the $10,000, okay, it takes 19 months to pay off the $10,000. But how much interest did they charge us? Here it is, $28,213.26. So here's how you need to take a look at this. And nobody's going to point this out to you when you're getting a refinance. They don't want you to see this, okay? Banks make a lot of money off of refinancing just on the fee alone. Look at this, $10,000, paid back $28,000 in interest. So your total on this, your total cost on this refinance is $38,500, a little more than $38,500. That's how much it really costs when you look at how much you borrowed to get the refinance, because when you roll it into the mortgage, you're actually borrowing it. And it's not at 4.5% either. That's just the interest rate they told you, because the interest rate you're quoted is not the interest rate you pay, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. We've already showed you that. So by paying off the $10,000, we're paying $38,500 for it. So let me ask you, if you borrow $10 from me, and I say, pay me back tomorrow, but give me $10 more in interest. Pay me back $20 tomorrow. Borrow $10 today, pay me $20 tomorrow. Isn't that 100% interest? 100% interest. 100% interest. Okay? So if you borrow $10,000 from me, and I say, pay me back $10,000 plus another $10,000 in interest, isn't that 100% interest? What if you borrow $10,000 from me and you pay me back $20,000 in interest? What is that interest rate? What is that interest rate? I see you, Upton. I see you. What is that interest rate if you pay back $20,000 in interest on a $10,000 loan? Isn't that 200% interest? There you go. She put it in there. Okay, 200%. Now, this is almost $30,000. This is almost 300% interest, 280% interest on a $10,000 loan. Let me ask you this. Let me ask it this way. If Your credit union today sent you a notice in the mail saying, have I got a deal for you? Okay. We're going to give you a $10,000 loan for 19 months, and all you have to pay us is $28,000 in interest. Would you sign up for that loan? Everybody, yes or no? Put it in the chat. Would you sign up for that loan? If they're going to lend you $10,000 for 19 months and you had to pay them $28,000 for it, would you sign up for that loan? Everybody who refinances their loan is doing exactly this, and nobody's telling you the truth. This is why refinancing doesn't work. Number one, it gives you a new 30-year loan. Number two, the costs are enormous, and we get tricked into 300% loans, and we don't even realize we're doing it. Mercy me. Let's not do that. In fact, you can pay off this loan much faster if we don't refinance. Okay, let me show you the difference between the higher interest rate and the lower one. Okay, let me show you the difference between a higher interest rate and a lower one. Okay, Miriam Jones, no, she said, no, don't want to do that. No. Okay, Miriam, I see you. So we have a $420,000 loan. Now we're going to, because you have to learn to understand the rest of the heuristics that I have here, you have to learn how amortization actually works in each loan. Okay, so we have 420,000 at 6%. I'm going to compare that with 420,000 at 4.5. There it is. Okay. Some people want. Okay. Now I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here, because one of the things that we could do, one heuristic, is to buy down the loan, buy down the rate. Don't do that either. Okay. So we have 6% here. The payment is $25.18. We have 4.5%. The payment is $21.28. All right. So let me show you something about the weakness in their system that they don't want you to know. Now I'm going to get into the power of prepayment and why investors don't want you to know about prepayment. And here's why. If you make that first payment of $25.18.11, only $418.11 is applied to principal. And so when you apply that to principal, you're paid down to $419,581.89. And then they take that 0.005, they take the 6% divided by 12, you get 0.005, and they multiply it by the 419,581.89. That gives you the new interest payment on line two, $2,097.91. That means $420.20 now goes to principal. That's how they want you to do it. Make every single payment on time. But what if you did this? I'm going over mortgage mechanics now. I'm not teaching you the P.I.L.L method yet. Okay. Mortgage mechanics. P.I.L.L method takes AI. It takes our computer system and coaching to understand that. But I'm giving you some of the background of it right now. So if you paid this mortgage in January, then your second mortgage payment for February would be on line two. So let me ask you, what is the principal payment for February? I just paid January's payment. The principal payment for February is $420.20. Do you have to wait till February to give the bank $420.20 after you've made your payment? Do you have to wait? Okay. The answer is no. You don't have to wait. Okay. You don't have to wait. So I can give that to them early. If I give that to them in January as well, do you realize they have to subtract the $418.11, discount my payment by $2,100, and I can give them another $420.20 on top of that. And no interest comes out of that. I'm paid down to line two instantly in the same month. I don't even have to give it to them on the same day. Anytime before the next payment is due. It's called a prepayment. I can give them that $420.20. And now they have to do the math on the $419,161. So now we're going to bring our calculator up to prove it. Okay. We get our 6%, okay, 0.06 divided by 12. That gives us the 0.005. And in 1 month in January, because we gave them the principal for January and we gave them the principal for February, all in the same month, we're paid down to 419, 160, 169. So we're going to multiply our 1/12 of the interest rate by this. Okay, watch this, times 419,161 and 69 cents equals 2095. 81. Do you see this 0.808? Because this is 5 or more, we have to round this zero up to 1. And this is why your next mortgage payment is going to be 2095.81 on line 3. So for $420.20 paid early, you eliminate line 2 off your amortization schedule and you go immediately to line 3. Do not pass go, don't collect $200. No, not $200. You just save $2,097.91 in interest you never have to pay. That's how powerful prepayment is. In other words, it costs you, if you do it the investor's way, it costs you $2,097.91 to give them $420.20. Okay? But if you give it to them early, it doesn't cost you $2,097. You give it to them early, you get it for free. This is why the investor hates it. They don't want you to know the weakness in the system, that I could give them $420 early. I'd never have to pay them that $2,097.91. Lord have mercy. Did you know this to be true? This is the system we're in. This is why you're not told. But the psychology of the system of being beat over the head with this for years, we believe this is the only way to get out, and we don't follow the path to better payment strategies. Now, if I taught this to your 8th grader would say, why in the world are we doing that? I don't want to pay my money and 83% of it is discounted. You know why? Because they have not been psychologically damaged like we have been. Okay? Psychologically manipulated for years like we have been. If I show this to an 8th grader says, oh no, I don't want to have anything to do with that system. I do teach this to 8th graders and they get it. So, is it easier to teach this to somebody who has not been taught the old ways? Do you see how much harder it is to teach somebody who has been psychologically manipulated for years to continue to do what they've always done because it's comfortable? We have to be uncomfortable to cut our interest costs by 75%. So this is why we don't know. So look at this. I need you to show you something. $420 saves me one total interest payment and knocks off this loan. I can look at 420. I could prepay this one and this one and this one. I could pay all the next 3 and save over $6,000 in interest I never have to pay. $6,000 and over $6,000 in interest I don't have to pay. And all I gave them was a little over $1,200 that I got on my savings account that's paying me 1/10 of 1%. Listen, I can make a ton of money this way. I can save a ton of money by doing this. And if I add up all the principal payments for 1 year, it comes to $5,157.63. And this is what they really don't want you to know. We have to know this to understand the other heuristics that we're going to go over today. There's a bunch of them. Okay. Do I have to give this $5,000 to them in 12 monthly installments? Do I have to give it to them this way? If I had it, could I give it to them all at one time and be paid down to line 12 in 1 month? Let's see. I owe $420,000. $420,000. If I can give them the $5,157.63 all at once on line one, let's subtract that. Okay, $5,157.63. Subtract that, I get $414,842.37. That's exactly what I have right here. If I have it, I could give it to them all in 1 month and be paid down to line 12 in 1 month. I just dropped my mouse. Okay. I can be paid down to here in 1 month. If I'm paid down here in 1 month, I just skipped all the interest payments between line 2 and line 12. Investors hate this because they want you to give them $25,000. They want to be able to discount your payments by $25,000 for you to be able to pay your loan down by $5,000. They don't want you to know that if you gave them this money up front, the only interest you would pay to get it down to right here is $2,100. That's it. You could pay $2,100 to give them the $5,000, or you can give them $25,000 to pay your loan off by $5,000. Folks, this is why you are psychologically and spiritually locked in to this stronghold so you can continue to do this. When you could save so much money, and I'm talking about the difference is huge. $2,100 versus $25,000 to do the exact same thing. And they've been getting away with it since 1936. Folks, you need to go to ice10k.com, ice10k.com, and get your savings and earnings report. After this break, we're going to come back and show you some other things that the banking system is teaching that really don't work real well for us. They're called heuristics, and this is why I need to break this thing all the way down for you. We'll be back right after this. How many want to know how to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years? You can do all of this without refinancing, without change to your budget, without sacrificing lifestyle.
Me and my husband do the P.I.L.L method, and last year we were able to pay down $33,000 on our mortgage without feeling like we were poor. We still did tons of entertaining things and enjoyed our family.
You don't have to eat beans and rice every day. You don't have to cut up your credit cards. You don't have to drive a 30-year-old car. You don't have to sell pizzas at night to pay off your mortgage. All you need to do is pay the bank less interest. That's what we're talking about today. Here is what P.I.L.L method stands for: prepayment of principal, isolation of principal amounts, leverage, and liquidity. You understand it? You have a way of getting out of debt more efficiently. The interest rate you're quoted is not the interest rate you pay. You think you're buying a $500,000 home. The true cost of that home is what? $758,000. Total interest paid as a percentage of principal, 51.777%. That's what's going on with this loan. The ability to read and defeat an amortization schedule is not taught at any level of financial education. I need you to understand the power of a penny. You will not hear what I'm talking about from Dave Ramsey. Do you know why? Because I own the copyright. I literally wrote the book.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.
There you are, folks. Go to ice10k.com, ice10k.com, and get your savings and earnings report. Okay, so let's finish this up. So we've seen what a 6% interest rate will do. I need you to focus in right here and write this down if you're keeping notes. Look at the principal payments. They start out at $420 that we can start attacking this loan. Okay, write this down. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. Interest payments you skip don't matter. Remember this. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. Interest payments you skip don't matter. So I'm going to take a look at this loan. I've got the 6% loan, and I'm going to compare it with the 4.5% loan. Look at the comparison here. Okay, here's the comparison. Okay, $2,128 is the payment for the 4.5%. Okay, for the 6% is $2,518. Let's take a look at the total interest cost that the bank is looking for, $486,000 versus $346,000. Ooh, a whole $100,000 less. If I get that 4.5, let me show you something. This is what they want you to see. Here's what they don't want you to see. When we get down to this payment, the whole idea is how quickly can I eliminate payments from my loan? If I have a small principal payment, I can kill the loan much faster. If I have a small principal payment, watch this. Here's the principal payment. Now, I need you to do the comparison. If I make this first payment in January, all I need to do is come up with an extra $420 to get rid of one line off my amortization schedule. Look what I have to pay if the interest rate is, look at if I have to pay if the interest rate is 4.5, $555. So you tell me, is it easier to come up with an extra $420 or an extra $555 if I lower the interest rate? It takes, to cut off 1 year off this loan, it takes $5,157.63 prepaid if I want to cut off a whole year. But when I lower the interest rate, now it takes $6,775 to cut off 1 year. Do you see what happens when you lower the interest rate? When you lower the interest rate, it takes more of your money to cancel the interest that you want to cancel. Oh my goodness. Has anybody ever pointed that out to you? So this is why I don't like buying down the rate. I don't like refinancing to a lower rate. So right now, interest rates are right around 7%. If I can afford the payment, I'm better off at 7% than letting my builder buy down the rate to 5.5%. Let me show you another trick, another heuristic, letting somebody else buy down the rate for you instead of you buying down the rate. So it's still going to cost them money. Let's say it costs $15,000 to buy the points that you need. Okay. And your closing costs on this loan happen to be about $15,000. So instead of letting somebody buy this rate down for me from 6% to 4.5 or whatever it is, okay, 4.5%, I don't want you to do that. Here's what I want you to do. I want to I'll take that 6% interest rate. You take that $15,000 you were going to use to buy down the loan, to buy down my rate, pay my closing costs instead. Yeah, pay my closing costs instead. If you pay my closing costs, that's $15,000 that I have that I don't need to use to pay my closing costs. Is that correct, everybody? Is that correct? Yes, it is. So if I have the $420,000 loan at 6%, and I have my $15,000 that I don't have to use for closing costs because the builder paid it for me, now I can apply the $15,000 to principal with my first payment. Look at this. Let me show you what $15,000 can do to this loan in the first month. Look at this. It takes off almost 3 years. Why would you let somebody buy your rate down when you can say, pay my closing costs and let me use my $15,000 to do this instead? And look how much interest you just saved in 1 month. $70,000 you never have to pay the bank. Do you see why they don't want us to know? Okay? Don't let them buy down the rate. And interest payments. So the interest payments are so much bigger here. Yes, but I skipped almost 3 years of them. So interest payments I skipped don't matter. I don't get charged that. So listen, folks, learn the right way to handle this. If you want to save money, okay. And Gabby says some people want lower monthly payments. That's right. Some people want lower monthly payments, but they may not need them. I may want a lower monthly payment, but will cause me to pay more interest over time. And if I'm paying out that money, if I'm paying 75 to 80% more interest than I need to pay, I can't also invest that money in my family's future. So give me the higher interest rate, give me the higher payment if I can afford it. I can be out of debt in 7 years and save a ton of money if I set myself up correctly. This now, if I'm going to make, Gabby, if I'm going to make all 360 payments without trying to save money and interest, yes, give me the lowest interest rate available. Give me the lowest payment available if I'm going to make all 360 payments. But I'm talking about 7 years worth of payments. I'm talking 12 times 7. Okay, approximately 84 payments, monthly payments, instead of 360 payments. If I'm going to try to cut my payments down to 84 monthly payments, give me that higher interest rate because it's going to help me to affect greater change in my payment system, and I can save way more interest. And the more interest I save, the more money that I have that goes to principal. Every time you give money to the bank on your own schedule, you make it impossible for them to charge you interest. One more time. Every time you give money to them on your schedule instead of theirs, you make it impossible for them to charge you interest. You get your equity for free every time you do that. And we're going to help you to figure out how much interest you can save per dollar. You want to save the maximum amount of interest per dollar. So do you want to save some interest, or do you want to save the maximum you possibly can with the money that you have? Then let our cloud-based AI system do all the math for you, tell you exactly how much to pay and when to pay it. Watch this. Okay. So here's another one, lowering the term. Some people have heard that if I get a 15-year mortgage, if I get a 20-year mortgage, if I can get a 25-year mortgage, I'm much better off. I can be done sooner and I can save interest. How many have heard that? Okay. I'm telling you right now, even if you have to go early, don't ever get a 15-year mortgage. You don't need permission to get a 15-year mortgage at all. Let me compare. Let me get rid of some of these. Okay. All right. Here's my $420,000 loan. And I want to show you something that you've probably never seen before. I'm going to do the same interest rate on different terms. I'm going to do I've got a 30-year loan, okay, at 6%. We're going to do another one at 300 payments, okay? That's 300 payments. That is a 25-year loan. Okay. We're going to do another one. Okay. We're going to do another one at 240 payments. That's a 20-year loan. And we're going to do one more. Okay, duplicate this tab. And we're going to do the same amount for 180 payments. That's a 15-year mortgage. Here it is. So let me ask you something first about this 15-year mortgage. Can you find a calculator online, okay, somewhere, even if you don't know anything about the P.I.L.L method, if you don't know anything about my channel, if you don't know anything about how to learn how all of this breaks down, could you find out on your mortgage what your payment would be for a 15-year mortgage? $3,544.20. Could you then get a 30-year mortgage and make this payment? Yes, you could. Here's the difference in payments. If you don't know anything about us, we got $2,500 here. On a 15-year mortgage, we have $3,544.20. You can still make that same payment on a 30-year mortgage and effectively turn your 30-year into a 15-year if that's what you want to do. You don't need permission to have a 30-year mortgage. You just need to know what the 15-year payment would be and then make that. So you don't need permission to have a 15-year. Just find out what the 15-year payment is and start making it. But if things get tight for whatever reason, if there's a financial reversal in your family, you don't have to stay with the 3544. You can drop back to the 2518 anytime you want. How about that? But if you get the 15-year mortgage and you have a financial reversal, baby, you're stuck at 3544. You ain't doing nothing about that unless you try to refinance out of it. And if you're in financial trouble, you ain't refinancing out of this thing because you're already in trouble and they'll see that and you will not qualify for the refinance. Never, ever, ever get a 15-year mortgage. You don't need it. Now, I'm going to show you something about all these mortgages. I need you now to take a look at the first interest payment on the 30-year mortgage. Look at it. It's $2,100. Here is the 300-month or the 25-year mortgage. I need you to take a look at the first interest payment on the 25-year mortgage. It's $2,100. I need you to take a look at the first interest payment on the 20-year mortgage, 240 payments. All right, look at the payment is $3,009. Okay, so we're going to scroll down and take a look at that payment. Look at this, $2,100. They're all the same. Here's the 15-year mortgage. Okay, 180 payments, $3,544.20. No one has ever pointed this out to you, have they? All three of these are the same. All four of the 1, 2, 3, 4 different mortgages, all with the same first interest payment. Look at that. Now, this is why banking doesn't point this out to you. Because before you can put an extra dime on principal, you have to pay the whole mortgage payment first. So how high do you want to make that bar before you can put an extra dime on principal and make it impossible for them to charge you interest? Okay, I want that bar as low as possible. Give me this one where my payment, look at my principal payment is $418. My interest payment is $2,100. Look at my second one, $2,097. All I have to do is prepay $420 to get rid of that. On the 25-year loan, look at my interest payment is about the same, but now I have to come up with $609 to get rid of it. On the 20-year loan, my interest payment is about the same, but now I have to come up with $913 to get rid of it. And on the 15-year mortgage, look, my interest payment is about the same, but now I have to come up with $1,451.42 to get rid of this one payment. Lord have mercy. How is it that we have never been taught this at any level of financial education? Why has this been kept from us for 89 years? Why? Because our system is based on it. These banks make their money when they sell the mortgages to investors, and investors don't want you to know how easy it is to cut them out of their money. They don't want you to know. So folks, get that savings and interest quote today. Find out today the month, day, and year you could be debt free and how much interest you can save by setting your loan up the right way. Don't ever do this. Don't ever get a 15-year mortgage. Don't get it. Now, if you already have a 15-year mortgage, don't worry about it. Call us. We'll show you still how to pay it off in about 7 years. Okay? You're still able to do it. Do not, if you have a 15-year mortgage, hear me. I'm not saying you need to refinance out of it to go back to a 30. No need to refinance. Okay? Just go ahead and do this. Now, there is a way to restructure the loan. All right? Call us. We'll show you how you can use that 15-year mortgage. I can still save you a ton of interest and get out of debt faster, even with a 15-year mortgage, and it will not hurt as much as what we're seeing here. Okay? I need you to see this. Total interest costs for the year on all 4 mortgages if you do it the bank's way. This is the 15-year mortgage, $24,000. $24,715. That's the 15-year mortgage. Okay. And I have to prepay $17,000 to eliminate this $24,000 in interest on the 15-year mortgage. Now, let's take a look at the total interest cost on the 20-year mortgage. See, 24, almost the same amount. But I only have to pay $11,000 to get rid of this now. Okay? That's the 20-year mortgage. On the 25-year mortgage, look, it's still $24,996. I only have to pay $7,000 to get rid of the same amount. But on the 30-year mortgage, around $25,000, and all I have to do is prepay $5,000 to get rid of 1 year on this loan. Why would I put myself in a position where it makes it harder to get out of debt faster? All the heuristics that we're ever taught keeps us in debt longer so that the investors make more money. That's how it works. So what else are we learning? All right, as far as how all of this works. Okay, what else are we learning? What else are they teaching us? When you hear people talking about this on TV, when you hear them talking about it on the internet, even in Clubhouse, even on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, however you're watching this right now, here's what you will hear. They assume that the lower interest rates are desired above all. They talk as if the lower interest rates are something we should strive for, and that is the best thing out there, but none of them have done the math to prove that out to you. They just keep saying it. They even say it on, CNBC. I watch CNBC all the time. I like the financial news, but even they talk about lower interest rates are desirable above higher interest rates. But they don't know. They haven't even been taught this. And they assume that the higher interest rates are totally undesirable. If the higher interest rate puts you out of the market on the house that you want or that you need, then do something about that. I'm not saying get a payment you can't afford, but if you can afford it, you're better off at the higher interest rates than you are at the lower ones. I think I've proved that today. Okay? If you can't afford it, if the house that you need, the house that you need and want is out of reach at the higher interest rates, now do something about that payment to get it within that threshold of about 30 to 35% of your income. You want to keep it within a certain threshold so you're not paying too much for housing. But if you are already there, even at the higher interest rate, keep that higher interest rate and don't listen to this garbage. Marry the house, but date the rate. Marry the house and date the rate. And when the rate goes down, you can always refinance. There's no reason to refinance out of the higher rate if you understand how to read an amortization schedule, if you have the coaching and the education that we should have received in 8th grade, but nobody's teaching it. They're not even teaching this at the Wharton School of Business, ladies and gentlemen. They're not teaching it anywhere, but right here. Okay. Now, what else are there? I got a couple of more heuristics. Get somebody else to pay your mortgage and create equity. Oh, get somebody else to pay your mortgage. Let's say you move out of your house. Maybe you can rent your house. Maybe you're in a situation where you're renting your house and somebody else is paying the mortgage and creating equity for you. Yes, that's possible. I like that idea. I love real estate investing, but real estate investors are leaving millions of dollars on the table because they're not practicing interest cancellation. All right. I'm going to use these same numbers. Let's say this is a multifamily. Okay. This is a multifamily for $420,000 at 6% multifamily. And we are cash flowing. Okay. But out of the money that my tenants are giving me, they're still giving me enough of $30,000 to pay the mortgage with for a year. Over $30,000 they've given me. But out of $30,000, guess what? I get $5,000 worth of equity. My tenants gave me the money, yeah. But I still don't, out of the money that they gave me, when they give, if you are a landlord and your tenants give you $30,000, whose $30,000 is that? That's all your money. Now, how much of your money do you want to keep? That's my next question. How much of your $30,000 do you want to keep that your tenants have given you? Okay. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to you that you have to turn over $30,000 to the bank that your tenants gave you, and you only get $5,157.63 of equity out of that? Does that make sense to you? But what if you have some money on the side? What if you have a reserve fund? Okay, you got a reserve fund, and you can borrow some money from your reserve fund. Take $5,000 out of your reserve fund, put it on this mortgage, kill $25,000 worth of interest, knock off 1 year, and then just slowly pay that back. You know how much you're putting into your reserve fund. Pay it back until you get that $5,000 back or whatever. All right. It may take you 5 or 6 months to do it, where you're making your regular minimum payments on the loan. All right. For 5 or 6 months. All right. But then when that money comes back, you can take money out of the reserve fund again and attack the loan and knock another year off and another 20 to 25 grand in interest savings, so that you're getting your equity 5 to 7 times faster. And because of this, you can refi 10 to 15 years sooner out of that old loan, take cash out and buy more property 10 to 15 years sooner by understanding how amortization schedules actually work. And when you understand it, ladies and gentlemen, you can do so much more. Now we're talking about wealth creation. Okay. We've covered a bunch of heuristics today. Now let's talk about wealth creation, because when you were talking about wealth creation, the money you don't spend on interest to acquire the same asset. Okay. Here's what I'm saying. If you take a look at the summary here, they want you to pay $486,000 for this. But what if you can, instead of $486,000, okay, let's see, what if you could pay them like $162,000 or $160,000 in interest instead? It's still a lot of money, but it's not $486,000, $162,000. Let me bring up my other example for you that I had here before. Let me show you this. Okay. Now we're talking about wealth creation using debt to create wealth. I'm an investor. I have some money built up. I built up my business so it's doing well. Okay. And now I got several doors and we're making money. But guess what? I can now acquire these two properties for a lot less interest cost. So instead of giving the bank $692,000 in interest, I give them $179,954 in interest instead. And I need to, let me blow this up a little bit so you can read it well. If I give them $159,954 when they're looking for $692,000, do you know my effective interest rate is 1.1%? When you take a look at, when we do the math and says, you're going to pay $179,000 in interest instead of $692,000 in interest, we don't have to change the interest rate. We just need to change the interest cost, how much you're actually going to pay in interest. And once you have paid, everything is paid off, and you paid $179,000 in interest instead. If you got the interest rate from the bank originally to do this, your interest rate would have had to be 1.1% across the board. So my question to you is this: if you can borrow money that cheaply, why would you ever take your cash out of your investments over here to buy something? Don't pay cash for a house. Don't pay cash for a car. You can borrow money so much cheaper. Let your money continue to work and make babies. Let your money make babies, ladies and gentlemen. Don't take your money to buy stuff. Use the bank's money. Think like a bank, because the banks downtown, what they're doing is they're borrowing our money. They're making big money with our money and then paying us pennies on the dollar for the use of our money. That's what they're doing. Why can't we do the same? Stop using your cash to buy stuff. Use the bank's cash. Let your cash continue to work in the system. Let it make money for you. This is what we're talking about today. And then when you do all of that, the money that you didn't have to pay to acquire the same asset, in this case, for this client, they could turn it into another $4 million to add to their net worth and to their family's legacy by not spending money you don't need to spend on interest. So listen, the amount of extra interest we're paying is horrendous. But you know what's practically criminal is the money that money can never make for you, because you're spending it elsewhere. You want to be practical. You want to be efficient in everything you do when it comes to your money. Everything you do when it comes to your money. Okay? So What else have I got for you today? All right. So let's take this off the screen. Boom. Okay. And we're going to take this off the screen. Let me see what else I got for you. All right. We're breaking this thing all the way down. I'm taking my time today, taking my time so that you can get everything that you need out of this. We're talking about mortgage mechanics today. All right. So, yeah, I love the idea of getting tenants, but I don't love the idea of giving all of my money away in interest when I don't have to. Don't have to. Okay. So remember that. Oh, let me ask this one last question, just in case somebody was wondering. If I have a tenant that's giving me $30,000, can anybody justify for me, if they're a real estate investor, can anybody justify for me giving the bank $30,000 just to get $5,000 in equity when I could give them the $5,000 up front and save the 25 grand? Can anybody justify that to me today, why that's a good thing? I don't think so. Let's not get caught up in the psychology of all of this to keep us doing the same thing we've always done. Let's get efficient with our money. Okay. What else we say? Never prepay. Never prepay and invest all discretion. Okay. Here's another thing. This is called the Smith maneuver. All right. Some people say never pay off your mortgage at all. Never pay off your mortgage at all. Take all of the money and invest it. And when they're saying that, and there is some truth to that. There's some truth to the idea of taking your money and investing it as opposed to paying down a mortgage, especially if you have your mortgage pre-COVID. Oh, I got 2.99 instead. And listen, all the experts are saying if you got 2.99, you don't need to do anything with this. This is already done for you. Okay. You don't need to pay off 2.99. Just take all the money and invest it, because instead of paying off and saving 2.99, you can now make 7, 10, 12, sometimes 15% by investing it in real estate or in the market. You can make that money. Okay. Here's what you need to see though. 2.99 in this mortgage is not 2.99. What? No. Here it is. 2.99 means on $420,000, they want me to pay $216,000 in interest. $420,000 purchase, $216,000 in interest. That means my interest, the total interest paid on percentage of principal is 51.583%. If my interest rate is 2.99, that really means that the interest rate is 51%. So when people come to you and they're saying, comparing 2.99% on this money, and why pay this off when you can make 7%, 8%, 10%, 15% by investing? You need to compare 51% against 15%, not 2.99. Does that make more sense to you? Even at 2.99, I can invest $721, $723, and get a return of $1,044.70. Yeah. What is our rate of return on that? What's our rate of return on that? Okay, well, if I do that in my mortgage, let's do the math. Okay, I got $1,044. Okay, I gotta clear that out. $1,044.70. Okay, and then I can prepay $723.77. So I can prepay. So I'm going to divide that by 723.77. And then when I get this answer, I'm going to multiply it by 100. Okay, that's how you figure that. Okay, so equals 1.44, and I multiply that by 100. Okay, multiply by 100. There we go. Okay, that's 144% return on my money. That's way better than 10% or 15% or even 20%. Now, here's what I'm not saying. What I am not saying is I'm not telling you not to invest. Here's what I'm saying. Get with your investment counselor, do your due diligence, and invest every single dime you're supposed to invest to get you to your goal. Do that. Don't stop doing that. Put every single dime away in your investments, whatever your investment is, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's in your 401k, put every dime you're supposed to put into your investments and don't change that. Okay? But you have some other money on the side that's not doing very much at all. Use that money to put on your mortgage to turn that into 144% return on your money, even at 2.99%. Don't believe a low interest rate does not mean a low or small interest cost. Even a 3% loan is a 51% loan. 4% turns it into 71%. 5% turns it into 93%. 6% turns it into 115.838%. That's 6%. And 7% turns it into 139%. But everything that the bank is asking you for, when you sign these papers, the amount of interest that they want you to pay is just a suggestion. You don't have to pay all of that. Now, what else are we working on today? Okay, what else are we working on today? All right, I got just a little bit more information here. All right, wealth creation with paying off debt. Do you realize? Here's a situation where somebody gets a windfall. They get a ton of money, ladies and gentlemen. They get a ton of money, and then they're tempted to do what? Okay, ton of money. They're tempted to pay off the entire loan all at one time. Don't do it. Take that money and invest it instead. Because if you pay too much at the wrong time, you're hurting yourself. Paying too much at the wrong time, you're violating the law of diminished return. Here's a story for you. I've got a guy who's paying off his mortgage a little too fast. Okay, he's got $263,000 left. He's making more money now, and he's putting it into our system. And now he knows that he can pay that loan off in 3.5 years and pay only $16,000 in interest. Okay, but if he takes $2,000 out of his budget and invest that somewhere else, he can now pay off his loan in 6.5 years, not 3.5. He can pay $20,000 in interest instead of 16. But if he looks at the wrong thing, if he looks at the 6.5 versus 3.5, if he looks at the $20,000 in interest instead of the $16,000 in interest, he may make the mistake and continue to pay that towards debt reduction, which really means this: $2,000 more a month into debt reduction for 3.5 years. That's 36 months plus another 6 months. That's 42 months. That's 3.5 years. He's putting that extra $2,000 in. And guess what? He goes from paying $20,000 in interest down to $16,000. You tell me, is it worth putting $84,000 of your hard-earned money into paying off a mortgage when all it's going to do is save you an extra $4,000? Would it be better that you take your $84,000 and put into another investment like a new house? Which is exactly what he did. Put that money into a new house $700,000 house, put a renter in the old house, and now he's going to pay off both houses in about 10 years. See, there's a lot we have been taught to do that we should not be doing, ladies and gentlemen. They're all heuristics, okay? Watch out. So let me show you something here. I'm going to put this back. I'm going to put this for the first time, we're going to show you 7% loan today. Okay? 7%. This is what it looks like. And I'm going to show you here. We're going to show you two ways to prepay this loan, right? Because you can prepay any amount you want. But I want to show you how it's hurtful to pay too much at the wrong time. That's called the law of diminished return. There's a point at which more is too much. Don't listen to Dave Ramsey and say, take all of your money and throw it at the debt and could become debt free, when you could find out where your cutoff point is and start investing instead. Watch this. So let's say we're looking at line 12, where you have $4,266.41 in principal pay down, and it'll cost you $29,000 in interest. Or on line 24, you've got $8,841.25 and $58,000 in interest and $58,000 in interest costs. So if I only gave you two choices, you can prepay line 12 or prepay line 24. Which one would you choose? Prepay line 12 and knock off 1 year and save the interest. Or you've got plenty of money in the bank and you could pay $8,841 instead and knock off 2 years and save $58,000. Okay, which one would you choose if you have plenty of money in the bank with our old thinking? When I ask this question, most people choose line 24. Let me do the math for you here, and let's see what's really going on. Now, this is where we get into optimized interest savings. You want to save the most you can per dollar. You want to save the most you can per dollar. My wife sent me to the store the other day to pick up some golden raisins. Sent me to the store. Got me a little confused because those raisins came in two sizes. You know, the boxes were two different sizes. One box was 12 ounce, the other one was 18 ounces. Okay. And there were two different prices. I wanted to figure out which one was the better value. Luckily, I don't have to do the math because the sticker was right there on the shelf telling me how much I'm paying per ounce. So you tell me, if I could get those raisins at 3 cents an ounce, do I have any reason to pay 6 cents an ounce for the same raisins? I can get them at 3, or I can pay 6. No, I don't want to pay 6 when I can get them at 3. Okay? Look, somebody has a comment here. It says, wouldn't you save the most interest as possible the sooner you pay off the loan? That is a good question. All right? That is a very good question. I love what you're saying here. Yes, you could do that, but you give up the opportunity to make money if you pay too much at the wrong time. Okay, so it's not just about paying off the loan. It's about doing opportunity cost calculations, because once you spend the money, you're looking at saving interest. But at a certain point, the interest savings are so small, could you make more money if you invest that money instead of using it to pay off the loan? Do you see where I'm going with this? So this is the question. Okay. So when we don't want to have tunnel vision when it comes to paying off the loan, even when you understand what it is that we're doing, and you say, I could save this much interest, but that comes in increments. Okay. There's a certain time when you need to stop prepaying altogether because the amount of interest you can save is so tiny. Okay. That's why it takes 21 years to pay off the first half of the loan. and you pay off the last half in the last 9 years because the interest payments are so small. There's a point at which more is too much, and the amount of money that you have to put into the loan to save interest is tremendous. So up here, look at this. I can pay $344, $346 to save $2,400 in interest. I like that. But when I get deeper into the loan, I've got to pay about, I have to prepay $1,051 to save $1,700. Do you see? It begins to get to the point where it doesn't help me to prepay that much. So now I've got to prepay $1,827.55 just to save $966 in interest. So there's a point at which I want to stop prepaying and look at how much that money could make me in compound interest if I were to invest it instead. Okay, here's another question. Here's the other question. All right. So let's see here. Does this also take into account the increased equity you gain by putting more towards your mortgage? Yes. Yeah, it does take into account. But the equity that you put towards that is unrealized if you don't take it out. But here's the thing. We're not saying do one or the other. What we're saying is find out that tipping point, do critical point analysis to find out what is the breakdown, what is the right amount to put towards debt reduction and save a ton of interest, and take the other money and put it towards investment and turn it into $4 or $5 million. You see what we're saying? Do both. We're not saying do one or the other. We're saying who's going to do the math for the individual, for the business, who's going to do the math to figure out what is the right amount for you to put towards debt reduction and interest savings, and the right amount to put towards wealth creation and interest earnings. You want to do both, not one or the other. And that's where we're being fooled to take a look at this. We're being asked to choose. I don't want to choose. I want both. I want to make money with my money, and I want to save money with my money. And I want to put the right amount where it makes the most sense. So take a look at this. Let's do a little bit of math here. Let's do a little bit of math. And while I'm getting this set up, I need you to think about the Olympics, because the Olympics is where I first heard about the triple jump, where it's the long jump, but you take 3 jumps instead of just one big jump. And I need to know from you, which jump do you think, if you're doing the triple jump, which jump is the most important? The first jump or the third jump? They'll tell you it's the first jump. It sets you up for the next 2. Okay. Put too much energy into the first jump, too much energy. Okay. You have burned up a lot of your energy so that when you take that first jump, you don't go as far as you need to take the next 2. You want the right amount of speed to hit the board at the right time so it can propel you the farthest on your first jump so that you can make your second jump and your third jump to end up in the pit the farthest you possibly can. First jump, most important. When you're getting out of debt, the first things you do are more important than the last things you do. Remember that. Let's take a look at line 24 and line 12. Let me bring up my calculator again. Okay. Bring up my calculator. All right. And hold on. Let me see here. Let me take a look at my calendar right quick. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to take a look at my situation here. Okay. I had to make sure that I'm not I'm not missing other appointments because I knew that this was going to go over time. Okay. I knew it was going to go over time. All right, hold on for just a second. I got to send my assistant a message. Okay. There we go. All right. So let me bring up my calculator. Okay. There it is. All right. Now let's do the math. Okay. I'm going to prepay $4,266.41 and get $29,000 worth of benefit out of that. Okay. So if I put in $29,264.83 and divide it by 4266.41, it equals 6.859. And that, because this is a 9, I have to round this up. $6.86. Now, how do I read that? For every dollar I put on principal, I get back $6.86. Wow. That's a 686% return on my money. Where else are you getting 686% return on your money? Nowhere else. Okay, watch this. So now that's line 12. Now, if I can save for every dollar, even if you give the bank $1, when you want to give it to them, at this point, you give them $1 extra, that means that $6.86 worth of interest they can't charge you. How valuable does your dollar become to you when you know it's going to save you $6.86? That means a lot. But if you put that dollar on a $420,000 loan, that's where we're taught to look. How much do you still owe? $420,000. I put an extra dollar on. It doesn't even move the needle. It makes no sense to us. But if I know how much interest I'm saving, this is why you're not supposed to pay attention to interest consumption. You're not supposed to know how much interest you're saving every time you prepay. But if I know that my dollar is saving me $6.86, that means something to me. Okay, so now let's do line 24. Okay, we have 58,221.23. Okay, and we're going to divide that by $8,841.25. So divide by 88.41 Okay, $6.59. So I got $6.59 worth of interest savings versus $6.86 per dollar. So if you had a choice between the two, should I choose $6.86 per dollar or $6.59 per dollar to set me up for my next jump? When you pay too much at the wrong time, you're violating the law of diminished return. And no matter how much money I have, if I've got extra money, I want to make sure I'm getting the biggest bang for my buck over here. And any more money I put on, my benefits start to go down if I put too much on at the wrong time. That means I've gone past the maximum amount of interest I can save with my money. I then need to take the rest of that money and put it in some sort of investment so it can make money. Once we realize that I'm getting the max out of my money over here, then I need to take the rest of my money and get the max out of my money over there in wealth creation. Kill interest, create wealth, all at the same time. Okay? That's what we need to do, ladies and gentlemen. Does that make sense, everybody? I hope that makes sense. Once you understand what banking does not want us to know, you can save a ton of money and you can invest a ton of money and become wealthy. I mean, regular people who make W-2 income. They don't even have a side hustle. They can become millionaires by taking the money in interest they didn't not pay the bank and invested properly. You can become a millionaire by working for someone else if you know how to cut that interest cost by 75 to 80% to acquire the same assets. Pay it off in 7 years. So here's my question. Do I want to hurt myself financially to keep from gaining the benefit of compound interest over years? I could take that money, instead of paying it off in 7, I could pay off in 5. But the amount of interest that I save isn't that much more. You see what I'm saying? I could pay off in 5, but if I pay off in 7, I can take that extra money and invest it, and it starts to work for me, compounding interest year over year over year. The earlier I get started compounding interest, the more money I make for my family. That's what we're talking about today, folks. Do I have anything else? I think I might have pretty much done this today. We just talked about the law of diminishing return. We just talked about opportunity cost calculations. You see, if I do an opportunity cost calculation, okay, with half the data, I know if I do investing, I know what I'm making, okay? And I'm focused so much on my making, I'm not seeing what I'm losing by paying all that interest. I'm trying to do opportunity cost calculations with half the data, okay? I know what I'm making if I invest it. I don't know what I'm losing by not prepaying. I don't know that. So I can't do a proper calculation on that. Or I'm totally looking at how much interest I could save if I can figure that out, but I'm not looking at what is the proper amount to put towards debt reduction so that I can invest as well. I'm not looking at that. So this is the half of the equation I'm looking at, and I'm not looking at the other half. To do a proper opportunity cost calculation, you have to look at both sides of the equation. What is my benefit and what is the downside of both decisions? And once I look at that, I can come up with our help. We can put everything into our cloud-based computing system and help you to determine what is the right amount for you. And it's going to be different for all individuals. So please don't ask me what the percentage is. I don't know, because I don't know you. If you want to know more about this, to get the opportunity cost calculator, get it. Get a savings and earnings report and use your interest money that you were going to pay the bank to pay for it. I'll show you how to do that. Okay? So you want optimized interest cancellation. We're almost done. I need to put our program on the screen. Let me do that. All right. And show you the program that does all of the math. All right. There we go. And open this up. I have to wait to pull it up. And the reason why is the program will time out. And I didn't want it to time out. So this is why I need to pull it up, a fresh program up every single time. Okay. And here's our demo. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's the program that does all of the math for you, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to bring this over right now. And we'll tuck it right in here. There it is. All right. This is the program that does all the work. Let me bring that up. Boom. There it is. Okay. This couple is going to be, by saving $179,000 in debt, they're going to be able to pay off all of their debt in 7.7 years. There it is. And by changing this, I can see how much interest they have left to pay. Okay. Principal remaining, interest remaining. They only have $56,000 worth of interest left to pay. Any more money they put towards debt can only save them a portion of the $56,000 they have left. I can't save them another $179,000 because that's already gone. I can only save them a portion of what they have left. And if they put too much money on, the amount of interest that they save gets tinier and tinier. It doesn't make sense to keep attacking the debt when you can only save a small amount of interest after a while. Okay? Don't do that. Okay? So this is the program that's going to get you there. How do you get it? Get a savings and earnings report. Get a savings and earnings report. Go to ice10k.com, ice10k.com, and get a savings and earnings report. Go down and click on get a savings and earnings report and put in your information there. Okay. And our team will get that for you. Okay. And once we know this, once we know all of this and get all this information together and start using AI the way for finances, the way it was intended, use a computer so you can save the maximum amount of interest that's mathematically possible. Guess what you get to do? The truth releases you from feeding this beast. The truth releases you from feeding the beast. Get an opportunity cost, get your opportunity cost calculator. Find out how this can help you. Get your savings and earnings report, and we'll give it to you complimentary. It's complimentary. Okay? Because when you click on getting, look at here. It says, don't waste another dollar paying off the wrong debt. Get your savings and earnings report complimentary. Give us accurate data, and we'll show you what we can do for you. What's going to happen is once you fill this out, somebody from my staff will give you a call, confirm your numbers. Once your numbers are confirmed, we will give you that 2-page report. If you like your results, you can get a consultation. It's only $150. Get a 1-hour consultation and figure out if you want to become one of our clients. Are we saving you enough interest that's going to be significant for you, significant savings, pay off your debt, all of your debt in a fantastic amount of time, all right? Save you a ton of interest, and it's a lifetime program. Will the interest savings pay for your program? That's what you want to find out. And we'll be able to tell you in the consultation. So stop feeding the beast. Take that money and invest it in yourselves. Optimize interest cancellation through our cloud-based computing system, the opportunity cost calculator, and strategic coaching. Listen, folks, I got it all done in under 3 hours. We're all done. Listen, come back next week for another show on P.I.L.L Method Live. Oh, and I'm also doing a nighttime show, all right, on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays now, all right? So we're doing a daytime show and a nighttime show. People have been asking us, Don, when are you going to do a nighttime show? So that because I work during the day, I can only get the replay. I can't ask questions in real time. So we're going to be doing Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central time at night now on Mondays, so you can participate and ask your questions too. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you for being here today. We will be right back here next week with more information. Don't forget to get your savings and earnings report. Get it today. All right. And let me see here. We got to get ready to go. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. All right, let's put this up there it is. Mortgage scam exposed. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.